Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CESASC Ping Talks. I will be the host of the day. My name is Xin Zhu, and I'm currently a PhD candidate at USC. My research focus is on haptics, which is the technology related to sense of touch. Part of my work at USC is to mentor undergrad and graduate students for research. So education is also one of my personal interests. So I'm volunteering for Ping Talks to help educate our next generation. And here at CESASC, we hope to leverage the association's excellent network for scholarship awardees to better serve the community, which is why we started the Ping Talks this year. The Ping Talks stand for Profession Insight for Next Generation Talks, and we are inviting seasoned professionals from various backgrounds to share their personal stories, as well as their insight of the current trend in their fields. So the talk will be about one hour in length, and our speaker will open with a short presentation. Then we will have a short chat for like 10, 20 minutes. And the majority of the part of the session will be taking questions from the audience. During the talk, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box or raise your hand, and we will get them to the QA sections. Before that, let's welcome the president of CESASC, Chen Guo, to give us a brief introduction of CESASC. Terry, go ahead.
Thank you, Xing. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Chen Guo, and I am currently serving as the president of CESASC for term 2022 to 2023. CESASC stands for the Chinese American Engineers and Scientists Association of Southern California. It was founded in 1962. And actually this year, we just celebrated our 60-year anniversary. So CESASC strives to serve the Chinese American scientists and engineers community, and we host many events such as our annual convention, our technical symposium, business forum, tech salon. We also have other programs such as the CESASC scholarship program and the STEM essay contest and the STEAM art contest. So we try to cultivate the next generation of the scientists, engineers, and the leaders in other fields. So we have distinguished speakers and awardees come to our conventions to give speeches and also accept our awards. And such as all the, like the Nobel laureates you see here. And also other elite professionals like former Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao, movie director Ang Lee, actress Lisa Liu, and many others. So since 1984, CESASC scholarship program has been running for almost 4 decades. We're glad that we were part of their journey to pursue their dreams. And many of our scholarship alumni have become respected experts in their fields, such as professors, doctors, investors, entrepreneurs, executive directors, managers, tech and like finance companies, and many more. We have federal government officials, we have people doing nonprofit charity work, you name it. So it's a very wide range of network, like Xing said earlier. That's why we're trying to build this Ping Talk so that they can share their legacy, share the experience they have learned through their career life, and share them with the next generation and carry on the legacy. One more thing I want to mention is that this is the 3rd session of the Ping Talks. If you are interested in any other fields, or if you are interested in speaking, please use a form that I shared in the chat box to give us a feedback about what other professions you want to know about, and we're gonna invite our future speakers accordingly. So that's it. Back to you, Xing.
Thank you, Terry. Very great introduction of CESASC. And as we can see, we have invited a lot of professionals for our past talks. And today we have our speaker, Professor Xiahua Wei from University of Washington. Dr. Wei is an tenured associate professor of UW, and she's an applied econometrician in the economics of information technology. Her research is motivated by technology, innovation, and competition in IT-enabled markets, such as crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, fintech, user-generated content, and the network industries. Her empirical research aims at discovering the effects of public policies on market competition, the design of mechanisms, and the management of innovation and the customer strategies that can improve market efficiency and enhance innovation. She's an interdisciplinary scholar with expertise at the intersection of economics and management, information system, operations management, and the marketing. Her research has been published in premier business journals such as Management Information Systems Quarterly and the Production and the Operations Management. Dr. Wei obtained her PhD in economics at the University of California, San Diego. She's also holds dual master's degree in economics and management science from the University of California, Irvine, and an undergrad degree from in economics from Fudan University. So we are so glad to have you here, Dr. Wei. Now I have briefly introduced Professor Wei. Can you tell us a little more about yourself? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Xin, and thank you to Terry for inviting me. I'm very delighted to have this opportunity speaking to the next generation and their parents. A little bit about myself. I got my training from economics, so I'm an economist by training. My area of research is more in microeconomics. I'm not sure how many of you know the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. So micro is more about consumers like us, businesses, companies, so decision makers at the micro level. And then macro is more at the society, at the economy level. So I'm not an expert in, let's say, like interest rate policy and then inflation, international trade, not all of that. But I think for microeconomics itself, there are already so many interesting phenomena to study. Yeah, I'm very excited for that, especially in the area of information, like economics of information technology. Probably many people ask me, "Oh, why did you get into economics?" To me, it's more like a serendipity. I would put it that way, because growing up, I always wanted to become a medical doctor because I was a sickly kid, and lots of my family members are healthcare providers. And then somehow when I was in high school, I wanted to become a lawyer. But somehow that changed again, and I signed up for economics as a major when I had no idea about what it was. I think the students here in the US, you are very fortunate to have the opportunity to explore different subjects, different disciplines before you make up your decision signing up for a major. But back then, I just really lucked out. To sign up for a major I turned out to fall in love with. Probably it's because of how economics is prevalent in our daily life. So today I was going out, like driving out. The holiday season is coming, right? Lots of people are shopping. So whenever we see there's congestion, right, on the road, in the store, or anywhere, whenever there's a line, it shows us there is an imbalance between demand and supply. And when I was thinking about, oh, should I buy some gifts for my friends, for my family? I don't think I will go there, because I want to practice what I teach to the students. So there's a story I always share with students when we come back from the holiday season. They receive lots of gifts during the holiday. And then the question is, do they really value those presents as much as the people, the family members who gave the gifts to them? There has been a study 20 years ago that measures the deadweight loss of Christmas. So there's a paper published by an economist at Yale. So what the study showed was that there is a big discrepancy between the actual amount of money that's spent on acquiring or purchasing the gift versus the perceived value of the recipients. And this gap is more than 30%. So think about how much money we spend on gift purchasing every year, and there's so much loss in that giving process. As Chinese, I think most of us here are, right? I think we probably get a sense of the inefficiency of gift purchasing here, because we don't do as much of exchanging or gift giving as Americans. We give children, we give others red envelopes, right? Red packets with money. So with money, it introduced lots of flexibility for the recipients. They can buy anything they like, right? The color, the style, and the version, anything they prefer. So we don't have to guess whether are they going to like this sweater or not, right? Usually aunts, uncles, aunts, they are terrible gift givers, right, based on studies. So if we as aunts or uncles, we give money instead, it's going to enhance the utility of the gift recipients. So I think that's the story I pick up during this gift giving season. And that goes back to, where do we see economics? So this is an example of economics. So this loss, 30% of the value in the giving process, is what we call as deadweight loss. It's a loss of value no one gets. And of course, the company gets, but not the giver and the recipient. So back to what economics studies. There are several keywords I want to bring to your attention. We have limited resources, every one of us, every company, every family, and every government. How should we allocate those resources so that we can get the most efficient outcome? That is what economics is all about. So a few keywords: scarcity, limited resource, right? And then efficiency. That's what we want to achieve. We want to improve the efficient outcome. So back to the example I just gave you, right? Instead of giving gifts, we give them money. Cash is the best, right? That can improve the efficiency. And in order to assess whether we have achieved an efficient outcome, the economists usually can build up models, theoretical models, usually mathematical models, to evaluate under what circumstance are we going to achieve better efficiency for the society, for the demand side, and for the supply side. And if this outcome is not desirable, can we change this game by designing or by changing some parameters in the system to incentivize players in this ecosystem change their behavior? So incentive is another key word. Scarcity, efficiency, and incentive. Those are my understanding based on, from my experience of economics, that's what we do in economics. So along that line, there are so many things that we can discover and we can evaluate. So for instance, if we change the pricing strategy of a company, is that going to bring more revenue, more profit to the business? And if we change the the advertising strategy, how does that would affect our revenue? And for our consumers, if you recall your experience going to dining out in a restaurant, right? Nowadays, they hand over a piece of, not just a piece of machine. Yeah, it's very palm help. You can hold it in a hand, right? You decide like how much to pay for the meal at the end of the day. So the design of the tipping system is very interesting. I'm not sure whether you noticed that. Usually at the panel, there is 15%, 20%, 25%. And depending on the business, the number might be different. So here, the economists study how should we design the default tipping point, right? So that our customers are more likely to give a bigger tip. So that is, to some extent, you can call that manipulation. I think it depends on where you come from. As a business, if that's making more money is your target, you probably think, oh, that's about like how to drive our revenue. But from the standpoint of consumers, we want to be more careful, right? Don't forget there is a fine print besides those numbers. You can always custom your tips. But let's step back and ask, why do we need to worry about this kind of design? Because this design can change consumer behavior. It can change how we perceive the default or the norm of tipping, right? So nowadays, we can see 20% is more prominent, is more prevalent than probably 10 years ago when 15% was the default. And then from the standpoint of business, do they really see more satisfied customers as a result of increasing the default tipping? So those questions invite empirical study from economists to assess whether this change in the default tipping would increase customer satisfaction, would invite customers to come back more often. So how do we do that as researchers? One way to look into this problem is to look at the online reviews. So Yelp, Google reviews, TripAdvisor. So we can see consumers' satisfaction based on the numerical rating and also based on the text of their reviews. And we can use text mining to extract the information, the sentiment, the emotion of those customers, so that we can see, are customers happier, like more satisfied because of some change in the policy of restaurants? So that's the approach we do. So many things, like from shopping itself. I'm not sure about you, because we have Amazon headquarters in Seattle. So I have Amazon Prime. I use it all the time. I'm a Prime member. I noticed that, starting a few years ago, it really started making my life easier every time I go to Whole Foods, because I could return my Amazon packages over there. So think about Amazon as an online retailer. They partner with their offline retailers. And Amazon is not the only online retailer doing that. I'm not sure whether you have used, there's a company called Happy Return. So if you buy things online, you can go use Happy Return to go to a local store that allows you to just like drop off your package over there. So why do they have this incentive? Like online stores, why do they partner with their offline competitors to some extent? So there have been studies by some of my colleagues doing research in this area, and they found that there's some spillover effect, which means that by inducing the customers into a retailer store, the offline store, it helps to enhance the offline partners. Yeah, so there's some kind of revenue sharing between the online retailer and the offline competitors. So those are very interesting phenomenon that we observe that we want to study in economics. And with the technology, like online market that is flourishing everywhere, I just see lots of opportunities for me to tap into this area. And my goal is to come up with managerial implications for business owners, for companies, for the platform designers, like how to better enhance the efficiency of the system and how we can improve the welfare for the society. Yeah, so those are the things I have been doing as an economist. I'm very excited about that, and I'm very happy today to have the opportunity to share all of that with you. Yeah, so I think Xin, that's like some introduction about my my background. I probably haven't answered all of your questions, but hopefully those are some examples that give you some idea about what I do.
Great, thanks, Dr. Wei. After listening to your interesting story about the red packet, gift giving and consumer behavior, I wish I could learn more about economics during my undergrad. So I will be a more smarter a consumer, right? But I'm very curious about the backgrounds in your education, how I will use your word to ask this question, how do you use these limited but very rich resources? I thought you from UC San Diego, UC Irvine, use these resources to make this very efficient outcome as economics. Can you tell us more about your education after things like undergrads?
Yeah, sure. I think my path was a little bit not by design. Yeah, when I was doing my undergraduate studies, my concentration was international economics and trade, which is at the macroeconomics level. And then when I started my PhD program, I did really well in macroeconomics. So all about a business cycle, and then the unemployment and all kinds of a very interesting phenomenon that we were discussing in class. The professors, macroeconomics professors, really thought that I would become a macroeconomist, but something happened along this line.
Yeah.
It was an accident that changed my whole life. So that accident was one day, out of curiosity, I decided to sit in a class with MBA students in the business school. So the class is called Managing IT, in business. So it was really eye-opening when I was sitting in the classroom with other students, because it's all teamwork and we had to do projects together. And I feel like, wow, what they're doing here is quite interesting, because they have case studies, right? And versus in my econ classes, usually you just, put your head down and doing all the homework and doing all the math. So this was the first time I feel I got the exposure to the application of economics in the real world, and I was blown away. So after class, I talked to the professor. It's a quarter-long class. He talked to me. He said, "Do you have training in econometrics? Have you taken micro, advanced micro?" I said, yeah, I know all of that. And then he said, "Oh, you should consider coming to business school." I was totally unprepared, because I thought, I'm going to be a traditional economist. I want to study macroeconomics. But all of a sudden now I received this shock that was totally unprepared. And it allowed me an opportunity to do some reflection and really think about what I am interested instead of, what I assume I would be interested. So that was a reflecting moment that took me from one direction to a totally different one. I mean, macro and micro, they are totally different. Yeah, so I'm very glad I had that opportunity, totally serendipity, getting into this world of the economics of information technology.
Great. So when you find out that, like, I would say, like, microeconomics is much more useful and like much more like interesting to you, right? Like, that's when you fell into this like area. But
Yeah.
how about like what made you like to decide to go for like a faculty member rather than the like industry? Like, yeah, why is that? Like, I feel like you're more like more interested in this like applied
Applications, yeah.
applications. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Xing. I have to be very honest. I mean, at the very beginning, when I had to decide like, where to choose my career, like how should I start my career? All of us as econ PhD students at the time, right, we were brainwashed like, to stay in academia. At least that was the tradition back then, because professors they want you to go to a different school, right? And that's the way to grow the influence, the impact of the institution where you graduate from. So I think at that point, yeah, I always wanted to be a professor. I mean, in academia, doing research, because I think in academia we have lots of freedom, intellectual freedom that allows us to explore any research topic we are interested, not assigned by anybody else, not by your manager, right? The dean is not going to like check on you every day. So you have full autonomy to decide the direction of your research. And then for teaching, we teach a few classes a year, other than the times that you are scheduled to be in the classroom. You can be anywhere. And of course, you have to go to a faculty meeting. But nowadays, thanks to technology, we can do that on Zoom. So we have lots of discretions, a lot of discretions in terms of our schedule, in terms of our intellectual freedom. So I think that was a big plus. And another reason at the time was the choice of going to the private sector was not as popular as now. Now we are seeing lots of economists going to the private sector, especially the big tech companies. So I think the trend started to shift. Yeah, probably 10 years ago. So I think that there is a big impact from the advancement of technology, from the demand of our society that is shifting the supply of econ PhD students. So if I were a fresh econ PhD student today, I might think it twice, but probably I will still start from academia first, because if once you start from academia, you still have the option of going to the private sector, not the other way around. Yeah, if you start from Google as an economist or whatever, or Amazon, then it's not likely that you'll be able to come back to academia, like being a professor, like doing research. They do have a large an army of economists over there. They do publish, but they are driven more by the needs of the company. Yeah, so let's say advertising, like privacy. So more in need of the company, not driven by your own like a passion. Yeah, so that is the difference. I always wanted to have that option open. So that's why if I were having the same like a situation today, decide where to go, I will start from academia again. Yeah, I can always go back there. Yeah.
I feel like you're a very like accessible like professor, because even I was your like student, I feel the story you're telling is so impacting, and I wish I could learn more about economics. Yeah. So I think the next question is like, how does the like typical like professor's life like, right? You said you have a lot of like intellectual like freedom, and how do you like allocate like your time, work and life balance?
Yeah. First of all, seeing it's never too late to get started, because economics is everywhere. Like even like finance, financial economics is part of economics.
Yeah.
So as long as you start something small, you will see it's everywhere. Yeah. So that's first. And then the second question you ask is about the lifestyle, right? The work-life balance. To be very honest, yeah, we have. I think at least from my experience, I struggle a little bit with that kind of balance, because for us, we don't have a very clear line between work and life. Yeah. So the flexibility, it has its downside, right? Because it's so flexible. So you bring it with you all the time. So you can do it. You can do your work at home, right? And you can do your work at vacation, during your vacation. So it's not like in the company. Once you finish this project, okay, Friday, right? You sign off and you are good to go. Yeah, for us, we have to think about, the deadline is on Monday, right? Yeah, so we have to get this done. And then I have co-authors and I need to push them a little bit so that we can get this all wrapped up. So that is the problem we have because of the flexibility. Even though we enjoy so much of the discretions that we have, but on the other hand, we really have to be conscious and be mindful about where to draw the line. So for my days, like a very typical day, I usually, if I don't have to teach, right, I still have to advise some students, advising students. So mentoring students is a big part of my time. Yeah. So it is not something we get paid for, because that's not a class that you are assigned and you have to do this, and there are metrics that we have to meet. Here, for mentoring students, it's more like a personal choice. And I find I benefit from this process. I mean, mentoring, it's not just that the students benefit from it, but in the process of advising them, I learn a lot from them. I see students like coming from different backgrounds, and each of them has a different story to tell. Their aspiration, their dreams, and their confusions. And you just feel, I would love to help them. Just like when I were at their age, I was hoping someone could help me, but I didn't have that resource. So I would love to give back to my students, helping them as individuals, as friends. And sometimes, they just see me as a much older sister, or maybe sometimes aunt, right? Maybe someday like can be a mom or grandmother. So I just want the point is that we are treating each individual, each student, at least for me, I want to treat them like with my respect and with the resource I have to elevate them, to achieve their goals. So student advising, that takes a lot of time. And then the other two elements, other than teaching, student advising, we have research. Actually, research is ranked as the most important priority. I'm not sure whether you heard this, publish or perish, right? You have to publish, keep on publishing, top tier journals, and then quality quality and quantity, trajectory. Yeah, those are the things you are going to be evaluated upon. So research is always something ongoing. And so I'm working sometimes on my own and sometimes with my co-authors. We discuss like projects, and different projects at different stages. So some of them are at the initial stage of developing ideas. Some are more at data analysis, right? So, and then from there, how can we better develop our models? And once we develop a model, we get these results. Do the results make sense? What kind of stories are we trying to tell? So those are the things we have to spend a lot of time. For a paper to be published in our field in economics and like a business in general, usually it takes several years, like 3 or 4 years is the average, because it takes so much time. And then the review process is very brutal, and you have to make the reviewers happy. So those are the things we do, research. And the third element in my life is service. So service. We serve students. We serve the community. So we have to sit on all kinds of committees, like the curriculum, like for undergraduate program, like master program, and then for the campus, whatever, like engagement committee. And then we develop curriculums, like trying to build new programs. And then we have to review papers for our professional world. So those are the things that you would really, usually people don't see that part. Because when professors walk away like from the classroom, right, students will assume, oh yeah, well, what is she going to do, right, for the rest of her day or for the rest of her year? We do lots of things like behind the scenes. And the service is really part that's usually overlooked, but it takes a lot of time and energy. It's more about institutional building and professional building, like for the community that we belong to. For me, it's like economics and also management information systems. So those are the professional communities we serve as reviewers and as conference organizers. Yeah, so those are the areas that will take up lots of time as well. Yeah, so back to the question we asked at the very beginning, life and work balance. Yeah, I think it takes we have to be very smart in how we exercise our freedom in order to have a productive personal and professional life.
Great. And yeah, it reminds me that, are you on your like sabbatical this year?
Yeah, I was on my sabbatical. Yeah. And because of the pandemic, I was not able to schedule my visit to other universities. So mainly I was staying in the Seattle area. And I did take a break and take a vacation, like to allow myself to recharge. And usually the sabbatical is every 6 years. Yeah, once you get tenure, promoted to tenure, every 6 years, you can do that. So for my next sabbatical, very likely I will visit not just a university. I think I am more interested in getting some exposure to some companies, like the experience, like based on real business world. Yeah, so that is my my plan. Yeah, if I have the opportunity to be an economist, like as a resident economist, like for some companies, that will be really enlightening. That will be a very informative experience for me.
Yeah, and I was just say thank you for like your like service for our like CESAC community that
thank you,
educate next generation during your like vacation like this time, you know.
Yeah, happy to give back. Yeah, I got lots of help. Have many mentors, friends who helped me get to where I am today. So a few months ago, I think when Terry reached out to me, I feel like, oh yeah, it is time like for me to give it back to the community in any form I can. Yeah, I love California. Like even though I've been in Seattle for quite a long time. Yeah, California, Southern California, it always feels like home, and I always want to help in any way I can, right, to the community down there.
Yeah, you're very like welcome to come back, you know.
For sure, for the food too.
The climate, the weather, it's great here. Yeah, so we have a very great like talk just now, and I think it's time for us to take questions from audience. So like maybe students or like parents. Do you have any question? You can just like raise your hand or type your question in the chat.
I do. I have one question. So before that, I want to say, like, everyone, if you want to type the questions, we have the issue with the chat that we cannot have everyone chat to everyone, but you can just raise your hand or just type that question to Xing. He can see that in his private messages. So the question I had was, is there any books, Dr. Wei, that you want to recommend for like a high schooler or middle schooler as an entry-level book on economy, like for them to get a sense and get started?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think there are many interesting books out there, but let me recommend, first of all, maybe a podcast. Perhaps many of you have heard of the podcast. I mean, that's a better way, a more efficient way of spending your time, right? You can drive, you can do other things while you are listening to the podcast. Efficiency. So here, I would like to recommend Freakonomics. Has anyone heard of that? Freakonomics. Freakonomics. Yeah. So they are invited to NPR all the time, usually on a weekend afternoon. So their slogan is to discover the hidden side of everything. So at the podcast, usually they have lots of economists, better academics or economists in companies. Invite them to the show, and it's a conversation to discuss something really relevant to our daily life. So the latest show, the latest podcast that I listened to was released on Wednesday. They were talking about the monopoly of Google. Yeah, the search of Google. Right? Google, we know that is like a very powerful search engine, and they were talking about how it seems that recently the search results on Google are not as helpful as when it started years ago. And Google relies a lot on its ad revenue, right? Ad revenue. So there is this trade-off between how should I better optimize my search algorithm as a search engine versus getting revenue from those advertisers. So there's a trade-off apparently. And for Google, because they are a dominant player in this field, I don't think Bing is anywhere like near Google. So they have this very dominant market power. And there are very interesting questions that were discussed by the host and a bunch of economists that he interviewed. So I think conversations like this is very helpful for any outsiders, not just like high schoolers, but also for people in general. They are curious about economics, but don't know where to start. Listen to this podcast, and they have very relevant topics. And I think they talk about minimum wage, right? The increase of minimum wage that was years ago, and then they talk about the rent control. That is that going to be an issue? So for those topics, right, it can be at the high level of policy making for states, for the federal government. But as our ordinary people, like how do we perceive the upsides and the downsides of those policies? By listening to those podcasts, you are going to hear like many insightful perspectives that will help you to have some kind of critical thinking instead of passively just buy into any stories that the media tell you. So
yeah, I remember. Is that the same hosted by the same person who wrote the book of Freakonomics? Because I read the book by Stephen
Dubner.
Levitt.
Yeah, Stephen Dubner.
Yeah, Dubner. Yeah, I remember reading that book and it was talking about, I remember there was one chapter talking about like how like they were telling the president that people shouldn't be using car seats or something because
Yes.
it's not really giving like any benefits, and like people's reaction was priceless. I really like that because it's really eye-opening. It doesn't really require a lot of like economic foundation or anything. It's really just challenge your mind and eye-opening. I really like that one. I would recommend that book too.
Yeah, they have at least two books that I have it, and because there are so many things coming out every day, so they launched the podcast. Yeah, and then Stephen Levitt is a economist at University of Chicago, so he's the co-author of the book. Yeah, so I think they really ask very clever questions and then curate a very interesting perspective, say on both sides. So you don't just see, oh, just one, it's good or not. I usually I hear people say, oh, is this a good thing? Or is this a bad thing, right? So increase of minimum wage, is that a good thing or bad thing? Asking questions like that, like framing questions like that is problematic. So let's say ask the questions in a smarter way. And I think, reading those books to get your foot into economics, you're going to have a different appreciation of like how we should frame the questions that we are posed. Yeah, so that's something I highly recommend.
Yeah, I'll definitely check out that podcast. Yeah. Anyone else having the questions? Please feel to. I think you can unmute yourself now, if that's right.
Yes, anyone, you can unmute yourself and even open the video to raise questions.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes, Ben.
Could you please give some examples about how to use mathematical methods to model economics questions or problems, and then how to do the research based on mathematical models?
Yeah, Ben, you probably have heard that or know that in economics, we use a lot of math. So mathematics and statistics, they are actually providing some building blocks for economics. They are very useful as tools and as methodology. So for math, like how do we use it? We use it more for the analytical modeling. So if we want to see a market to achieve its equilibrium, right, we have to make some assumptions about the demand side and the supply side. So demand side, consumers. Consumers, we have an objective. We call it objective function. Traditionally, we assume consumers wants to maximize their utility. So they have decisions to make. So for instance, how much to buy for a variety of things. And each item would have its price. They cannot buy unlimited amount because going back to what I mentioned at the very beginning of the talk today, scarcity. We have a budget constraint, right? So now we only have, let's say, $100. How are we going to allocate this $100 to different kinds of items in the groceries that we purchase every week? So that is the question we try to model into this utility maximizing problem. So their decision variables is the quantity and the constraint of their budget. So that's for the demand side. And then for the supply side, depending on the market structure of the suppliers. So depending on whether this market is competitive, which means that there are many suppliers providing a similar or identical products, or it can be like a Google monopolist, or it can be like a wireless telecom service providers, only 3 or 4 of them, right? So depending on the market structure, the competitiveness of the market would determine the availability, the versions, and product differentiation of the items that's available on the market. So for the supply side or for the suppliers, their goal as business is to maximize profit. So their decision variable is how much to produce and what is the price. So now you can see for both sides, right? Demand side and the supply side. And each of them, they have different objectives. How are they going to meet? Yeah, that's what we are trying to analyze in the equilibrium. So mathematically, we can solve for a solution. And math will help us get to a point saying that, oh, under this, all these assumptions and the constraints, we would predict that the market will clear at this amount of quantity at this price. So that is the theoretical prediction, and that's how math would help us get there. But how do we know that's true or not? Then here is where statistics comes in. So statistics calls upon data from the reality. So we're going to test whether our mathematical prediction is really true in reality. So using statistics, we collect data, we use the modeling, statistical modeling to test whether the prediction in theory is confirmed in reality. Yeah, so math really works as magic, give us a very clean framework to make predictions. And then later on, statistics comes in and help us test whether that is true in reality. Ben, did I answer your question? It's a very simple example.
That's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Okay,
I
sure,
got
yeah.
your points. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have more questions?
Yeah,
Yes, I do have a question.
Hi, Michelle. Yeah, Michelle's mom. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's me actually. Sorry, I was just taking my mom's phone. So I study, so I study violin, like music from when I was really small. But I've also just recently found out I'm really quite into economics. So I was wondering is it actually possible that I could study both music at a top music college, but also study economics in my free time or whatsoever? Is it possible with my time?
Yes, I would think it really depends on how you allocate your time, right? Again, scarcity, and we only have 24 hours a day. So Michelle, you have very diverse interests. I think music versus economics, they are totally two different animals, right? Very, very impressive that you have developed interest in both areas. Michelle, do you have anything to add before I go ahead and talk more about it?
No, not really. But
Okay.
music was actually chosen by my parents when I was really small because my dad plays violin. So he just, it's his profession. So he wanted me to go this way too.
I see. What about yourself? What would you like to become? Musician?
I actually don't know. It was yesterday and my dad just told me that I don't really have the time to do economics if I chose to become a professional music player. But I'm actually really interested in economics too. So I'm just trying to weigh it up in my heart. Yeah, what I really want.
Michelle, are you in high school? Which year are you in?
9th grade.
9th grade. Okay, you're still very young, to sort all of that out. But first of all, let me say, right? If this is your parents' preference, I think you can take it with a grain of salt, right? It's about your future, about your career, and of course they have expectations on you. Music, you can always keep that as your hobby. Right? You can still compete, right? In all kinds of contests. You should respect your passion is, or at least your curiosity at this point, right? If you haven't explored the other areas, how would you know? You wouldn't fall in love with the other alternatives. And you're so young, and I really encourage you to give it a try. At least maybe take some classes or read some books or talk to teachers or professors in those areas and see whether that further pique your interest. You never know. You can be the next chief economist at let's say Amazon. Yeah, you never know. I would love you to get out of your comfort zone, or the road or the path like designed by your parents instead of yourself. So go explore, and you're going to have a much better understanding of what you desire, what your desire is. So I think that's my recommendation.
I would like to add on that too, actually, because my daughter is my elder one is very into music, very much into music, and so one thing I know is that, like, for example, if you're doing violins, you probably know, if you go to Juilliard, they have like a joint program with Columbia. So you can take like the two programs, take the music class at Juilliard and also take the another major in Columbia. And it's not rare to see people doing double major or like a major and minor in many universities nowadays. Like I'm not sure if you listened to our last session, it was given by the dance professor in UC Berkeley, and she said like there are students who like major in, say, microbiology and minor in dancing. So you can do that. The other idea, I'm not sure your parents' philosophy, but the one that I was giving my daughter is that, like Dr. Wei said, like you will be the one who's gonna be going through your entire life, and you have to be responsible for your decision. That's why we are hosting like events like the Pink Talks at CESAC, so that maybe through our introduction, if you don't like economy so much, right? And you can, this is not the life I want to go, but maybe you say, hey, I like economy, I like this kind of lifestyle as a scholar, as a professor, I want to be a person like this, more than I want to be like violin. And that is really ultimately the driving force for your career in the future. At least that's what I see.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Terry. I think nowadays we have more like opportunities for students who have diverse interests, right? So it's not has to be like yes or no, black or white, only to one. You can do multiple. And actually, that's also something I would like to encourage all the students tonight, right? To try to explore some interdisciplinary areas. So even for Michelle, right? If you want to become a musician in the future, knowing business knowledge, knowing economics will help you to launch your business, to help the organization where you belong to better to improve their performance. So because you come from a background like different from traditionally trained musicians, so that is going to be your competitive advantage. That's going to be the value you can bring to the table.
Yes, and even if you go to like Juilliard, they have classes that they ask students to take, like entrepreneurship classes, because even as a musician, you have to learn to promote yourself. You have to learn to social with like all the other parts of the show, because you're not playing alone, right? So it's important to learn as many things as possible, like that you're interested in, and also, I mean, like Dr. Wei said, every interdisciplinary knowledge you learn and experience you have will come back and like build you to a better person collectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think for economics, I see lots of students nowadays. They choose a major in maybe computer science and a minor in economics or business, or the other way around. They major in economics and a minor in computer science, or other areas. Yeah. So nowadays you have like lots of opportunities like to combine your those interests, and it doesn't have to be only just one. Yeah, and then.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll really go and consider all these. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you're welcome, Michelle. I think we are. Anything else?
I actually have more questions about like interdisciplinary work, right? How you combine all those into like advantage for you, because you, like you said, you did macroeconomics, you did microeconomics, you did business classes. Actually, we had audience who messaged me at the very beginning of the seminar asking, hey, what's the difference between, like, say, econ and business? What do students study differently in those two majors? We probably don't have time for a lot of those. So maybe you can explain this simple, like in
very, very quickly. I think
Yeah.
the difference is similar to the difference between physics and engineering. Yeah, so I think economics is the king of social sciences, and it's the language that all the business disciplines speak, all of them. So if you take an MBA program, become a student in an MBA program, the first class you're going to take is going to be microeconomics and macroeconomics. There is a reason why it has such a sequence, because whether you are going to do marketing, management information systems, finance, accounting, strategy, leadership, innovation, they are going to utilize the language from economics because it's so fundamental, and that's why we are going to put that as the first piece in the curriculum. And then all the other areas that I just mentioned in the business school, they are more applied or more specialized in that specific area. But economics is more general, and lots of the principles of economics can be applied in each specific specialization. I hope that answered your question like very, very briefly.
Yeah, thank you. I think that does.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, I think I have a video that I prepared. I didn't know like when I can show it. So this is the very short video, maybe less than a minute. It's about like how math can be helpful. So you're going to see, students they were stunned, like they didn't recall math, and math is so heavily embedded in economics. So let me share my screen.
Great.
Oh, I forgot to check off one option. Oh, share sound. Right, got it. Price times quantity. Thank you. Yeah. So price times quantity. And here we're going to do something different. We're going to take a total differentiation. So let's do the total differentiation. Have you gone a total differentiation in your calculus class? No. Probably not. No. Okay. The chain rule, I think, in calculus. Long time ago. How long was that? 2 years ago. 2 years ago. I thought it was 20 years ago. 2 years ago. All right. So let's say P times Q, and we're going to do some operation here. So we have like P times Q. We take the first argument, right? And so that the idea was that students complain that they don't remember the math they have taken. And in economics, we use so much of math that I was trying to ask them, when did you take the math? They said 2 years ago. I was joking. Oh, I thought that was 20 years ago because all of you didn't remember anything from your calculus class. So the moral of the story, we use a lot of math.
Yeah, and that's also one point I want to point out to the students or the parents. So actually, this is the third session of the Ping Talk, and the first session we had of Ping Talks was given by a math professor, and he gave us a very informative suggestion about like preparing for college and stuff as well. And one of the points he brought up, and I really want to iterate here, was that it's not really helpful if you want to just push your kid or just study very fast and go into, say, pre-calculus very early in your career, and like probably take the AP class. And then when you enter college, you're probably going to have like 1 year or even 2 years without taking any serious math classes. So that's probably what the students were doing here, because they probably got advanced and they took the class many years ago, and without practicing math, it's like language. If you don't practice with it, you're going to forget about it. And then when you really need it, that's going to be a problem. So you may think that will help you, like by taking advanced math classes early, that's probably going to help you in getting into the college, but it's not necessarily going to help you in the long run in your career. So his suggestion was that even if you want to take these classes, you have to take more classes as you get into college, because those are the stepping stones that opens up doors for you in the future, right? To take more like complex classes and solve more complex problems, doing more complex modeling. All those needs like exceptional math skills. So don't let that down. Always keep practicing your math. Whether you're in math, in computer science, in physics, any major, most of them will need math nowadays. So we will. I will send the playlist link of the other Ping Talks in the group chat. You can check those out. It was posted on the CSAC YouTube channel.
Yeah, sounds good. I think Terry, you're right on. Yeah, the math is so important. Yeah, to so many areas. Apply math, and even apply physics. They provide like students with strong foundations. So I have classmates who major in math, like undergraduate major. So it's very common nowadays, like to see people coming from those areas, and now they specialize in economics. So math, even though as scary as it sounds, yeah, it really prepares students like to go far, like down the road of their career.
Yep, I think it's time for us to wrap up, Xing.
Yep.
Thanks, Dr. Wei, for your advice on the area of economics, and I really like wish I was like I can meet you like earlier to learn more about like in economics, right? Like I do take the like course at like USC Marshall School, such as
That's great.
like finance. Yeah, definitely. I wish I could learn more. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with your background in engineering, right, if I recall correctly, you're going to have an advantage here too, because nowadays we do like machine learning, we do deep learning, and then like artificial intelligence as well. Yeah, so economics is really enhanced or empowered by lots of the techniques in computer science and engineering.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, really enjoy meeting with you today, and thank you for this opportunity. And yeah, if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to ask Terry and CESAC, and yeah, I'll be more than happy like to share whatever I know with you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Wei, and
Thank you.
I also would like to thank our audience for attending the Ping Talk sections. So CESAC will be having more events coming, and Terry, do you want to go ahead like end with some update for today? Yeah.
Oh, sure. So thank you, Xing, and for sure thank you, Dr. Wei. So for CSAC, you're gonna see more upcoming events. Our STEAM seminars by Dr. Jonathan Jiang will be having the next session, I think session 4 on December 17th, and the topic will be viewing the Earth from space. And our last session of season 1 of Ping Talks will be featuring Dr. Xiaochen Liu. He was a senior research scientist of AI and machine learning at Meta, but I think a few weeks ago he actually quit Meta and went to a fintech startup. So he's going to share with us about like how the Silicon Valley is like, and what like researching in AI and machine learning is like, and stuff like that. So that will be on December the 3rd. And please note that we will be inviting the speakers of the next season of the Ping Talks based on your feedback about what professions you want to know about. So whether that being like biology or music, or we've got a lot of stuff. So if we cannot find them in the CESAC network, we're going to reach out to speakers for you. So anything you want to know, just there is a Google form link in the chat box. Please go ahead and fill in that, and we're going to try to accommodate your needs. So thank you so much. Oh, and I also want to mention that CESAC is a nonprofit organization, and our team are all unpaid volunteers. We couldn't have come so far without our generous institute and individual sponsors. So if you're interested in donating to CESAC, please contact me at my email address. That's terry.guochen@gmail.com. And I will park on this page and call it a day. This is the YouTube channel of CESAC and WeChat post channel of CESAC, and also there's a group chat for the Ping Talks. So, and our website is cesac.org. So we'll call it a day, and thank you everyone. We're looking forward to meeting you in another 2 weeks.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Xin, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Wei. It's nice talking to you.
Nice to meeting you.
Okay. I'll park on this for like a few minutes before we stop the meeting, so that you can have the chance to check out these channels. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.